ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भुरिदा जनाः। So we will continue from where we left last time. Sri Ramakrishna is interacting with devotees at Dakshineshwar and is attending a performance of a drama on Chaitanya at Calcutta. So these are the two incidents that are covered in this chapter, the first chapter. So the conversation is about Rakhal, Narayan, Nitya Gopal and younger Gopal. There was a boy known as Choto Gopal to distinguish him from Budo Gopal. Budo means old Gopal. So old Gopal, all of us know, was later on known as Swami Advaitananda. He was, in fact, older than Sri Ramakrishna himself in age. So that is Budo Gopal. But there was a Choto Gopal, also known as younger Gopal, who is being referred to here. So the day is Sunday, 21st September 1884. A number of devotees have gathered in Sri Ramakrishna's room. Ram, Mahendra Mukherjee, Chunilal, M and many others have also come. Now Chunilal has just returned from Vrindavan. So he and Rakhal, we all know who Chunilal was. Chunilal's full name was Chunilal Basu. And he was a very great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. Not only he was a devotee, he was extremely of moderate means. I mean, he was not a person who could afford to come by carriage to attend Sri Ramakrishna's conversations in Dakshineshwar. So we find that Chunilal Basu had great difficulty in attending all the sessions of Sri Ramakrishna. Though he was very devoted but he was a man of ordinary means and he could not afford carriage hire. And it was almost impossible to walk all the way from his house to Dakshineshwar. So Sri Ramakrishna knew that, and as I mentioned before, he used to tell some of his rich devotees who used to come by carriage. Sri Ramakrishna was so alert that he would know where his devotees are coming from. Some of them stayed near the other devotees. So he would pinpoint and tell that this devotee that when you go, you please take Chunilal because his house is on the way. Please drop him. So he was concerned not only of the spiritual development of his disciples or devotees, but also concerned about their welfare in the world. So that is why the Lord takes care not only, as Bhagavad Gita says, Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham, means one ananyas chintayanto ma ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yoga kshemam vahamyam. One who is Ananya means without any doubt. Chintayan, who thinks about me. Me means the Lord. Ye jana means those people who paryupasate, they worship me, literally adore me and think about me. Tesham ananyas chintayanto ma ye jana paryupasate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam. Nitya abhiyukta means one who is eternally connected to me, who always eternally is attached to me, because the Lord resides in the heart. And if one is convinced of this, one has the faith in this idea, then if the Lord himself is guiding our destiny, then he should be there always with us. So that is why here Chunilal Basu was a devotee who was so close, who was always thinking of Sri Ramakrishna, though he could not always uh, manage to come to Dakshineshwar. Physically, he could not be present. But I think in his mind, he could not forget Dakshineshwar. So, this Chunilal was very dear to Sri Ramakrishna, though he was of moderate means. As I said, Sri Ramakrishna used to take care of his welfare also, and now and then tell some of the other devotees who had enough money to pay for the carriage fare. It was so difficult to go to Calcutta at night, especially after the conversations were over. After the satsang was over, one had to go in the dark. So unless one had a carriage, horse carriage, that was the means of transport in those days. So they used to, Sri Ramakrishna used to just watch and ask some of the devotees, why don't you please take Chuni with you? You are staying very near his house, so that he used to get the benefit of some of the trips made by some rich devotees. Now, in this case, they are just discussing his visit to Vrindavan. Rakhal, as all of you know, later on became Swami Brahmananda. He went there with Balram. So Rakhal and Balram both have not returned, but Chunilal has come. All of them went together. Perhaps the trip was also sponsored by Balram, who was a very generous devotee. So I think Chunilal's trip also would have been sponsored by Balram. He had taken Rakhal also with him. Nitya Gopal also is in Vrindavan. So Thakur now is asking Chunilal, what transpired in Vrindavan? What did you all do there? So Sri Ramakrishna is very much concerned about Rakhal, who was like not only his very close disciple, but was like a son to him. Manas Putra, as he was known. So he was very fond of Rakhal and used to inquire about his welfare. So he said, how is Rakhal doing? Chunilal says, sir, he is all right now. So Sri Ramakrishna says, isn't Nitya Gopal coming back? Chunilal says, he's still there. I saw him before I left. Sri Ramakrishna says, who is accompanying your wife and the others? So perhaps Chunilal, who was a householder devotee, had gone there with his wife. So Chunilal says, Balram Basu said that a good and suitable person would be sent to accompany them. Them means the women. The women folk also had gone with Balram Bose. Though Balram Bose and Rakhal and Nitya Gopal, they stayed there. They had arranged for somebody to bring back the women. So he didn't give a name. So Chunilal says, I don't know, but some responsible person will come with all the women in that party. Thakur now talks to Mahendra Mukherjee about Narayan. Narayan was a young devotee, had just started coming to Sri Ramakrishna. He was going to school and he was just 16 or 17 years old. He used to visit Thakur off and on. I mean, very frequently used to visit Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna was very fond of him. Then Sri Ramakrishna says, referring to Narayan, he says, he is very guileless, isn't he? As he says, guileless, Sri Ramakrishna is filled with joy. He is filled with joy. Mahendra says, yes, sir, very guileless. Sri Ramakrishna liked such people who were very straightforward and who were childlike in nature. They did not have crookedness in their mind. And that is what Sri Ramakrishna liked. That a crooked mind or a supposedly very clever mind is not good for spiritual progress. One thinks from the worldly point of view, if one is very shrewd and one is very calculative, people say, oh, he's a very wise man. But in spirituality, it becomes a big impediment. You start doubting everything, you start arguing about everything, not only arguing, but you become very adamant and you think that through our cleverness we can attain God. That is not true. God has to be attained with simplicity. As Jesus said, that blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And then pointing to the children, he said, unless you be like them, he pointed out to some children who were there. This is there in that incident, Sermon on the Mount. He said, unless ye be like these children, the kingdom of heaven will be close to you. I mean, it's open only to people who are simple by nature, who are straightforward, guileless. So that is why Sri Ramakrishna used to analyze people, and if they were guileless, he was very happy, because he knew that there is a lot of scope for spiritual progress in such a person. So Sri Ramakrishna says his mother came the other day. He's talking of this Narayan, who was just 16, 17 years old, and whom Mahendra means Master Mashai, who was recording these conversations. He said, yes, he is very guileless. So everybody knew Narayan. Sri Ramakrishna says, his mother came the other day. I was frightened to find her so egotistical. She was quite opposite. She was full of ego. Narayan was absolutely guileless. That's why we find that in most of the cases, the biological characteristics may be genetically, it may come down to the children, but the mental characteristics, the character of the parents need not always be, the children need not always have the characteristics of their parents. They can be very good. For example, here you see, Sri Ramakrishna was surprised. He thought, if he didn't think, but normally we might think that if Narayan was so guileless, his mother also should be guileless. But it was not so. In this case, Sri Ramakrishna says, I was very much surprised to see his Narayan's mother was full of ego. She found out that you and Captain visit here. She must have definitely thought that I and Narayan were not only the ones who come to the temple. All laugh. There was some sugar candy in the room. Seeing it, she said, nice sugar candy that is. She must have concluded from this that there is no dearth of food here. So she had come with a totally worldly purpose. She was just looking around, finding out, oh, they were very good quality sugar candy. Of course, somebody had given it as prasad and it was lying there. It was not Sri Ramakrishna, but this lady was so sharp, and she thought, because such very costly and good quality sugar candy is there, these people must be very rich. So she came to the conclusion that if Narayan comes here, because Captain and others are coming here to the temple, and there is so much of, apparently there was this sugar candy, which was a very good brand, and she thought that maybe here everything is a top class. So she was a bit happy that, okay, there is no problem of food here. Then perhaps I said to Baburam in her presence, please keep some sandesh for Narayan and yourself. Ganu's mother and some other women said, oh God, how he bothers his mother to pay the ferry charges to come here. I mean, some other women who were there, they said Narayan, because he was a young boy, he didn't earn money, but he was so keen, he was so guileless, so devoted to Sri Ramakrishna that he used to beg for somebody from his own mother to pay the ferry charges to come here. He said, give me a small amount so that I can go. So the mother was not very willing. His mother, on the contrary, is telling Sri Ramakrishna, which normally most of the parents do. He said, please ask Narayan to marry. In those days, you all know, 16 or 17 was a good enough age for people to marry. People married, especially when the boys were 15 or 16. The girls would be 12 or 13, they would be married. So perhaps this lady wanted to make sure that this Narayan does not have other ideas. He may develop some renunciation. So before he could develop that, she thought that if Sri Ramakrishna tells him to marry, then at least he will be he will lead a worldly life. She was afraid that this boy may run after spiritual pursuits. So Sri Ramakrishna heard it very quietly. He says, his mother said to me, please ask Narayan to marry. Then Sri Ramakrishna says, I replied, it all depends on his destiny. Why should I interfere in all such matters? So all start laughing. So Sri Ramakrishna gave a very, very nice answer. He said, it all depends on destiny. If he is to become a monk, he will become. If he is to marry, he'll marry. If somebody is somehow destined to marry, then he will marry. What can I do? I should not interfere in such matters. It is their karma that will make them choose what they want. So Sri Ramakrishna that way was very neutral. Many people think that he would encourage everybody and tell them not to marry. Yes, some people were there whom he loved very much, and he was very much afraid, like Niranjan. Even Swami Vivekananda, when the proposals had come and the parents were keen to marry, Sri Ramakrishna was so much worried that if these people marry, then their whole spirituality is gone. But that doesn't mean that he never, people whom he knew would have married anyway, because they were not keen to imbibe any spiritual values. For them, he would be quite liberal. So he says, why should I interfere in such matters? If Narayan is destined to marry, then whether I tell him or not, he will marry. And if he is not destined to marry, then nobody can force him to marry. So his idea was that I don't interfere, let destiny take its own course. Of course, as a guru, he would guide them, but he would not force them to do this way or that way, because he knew it's impossible to convince a person without interfering with them. I mean, his samskaras his prakriti or his gunas will force him to do things which cannot be prevented. So when one is today we are just beginning the 9 days of Divine Mother Shakti. So Shakti has a positive side where she enables the adherents to go away from Maya or go away from bondage to Prakriti. And on the other hand, her negative side, I mean negative aspect of the same reality, the positive and the negative aspect binds a person to the world. So it is Mother's sweet will. So Sri Ramakrishna did not bother about it. He said there will be some people who, in spite of my telling them, by Mother's grace, they will, whether I tell them or not, they will not marry, if Mother's grace is there. But if Mother wishes, then even if I say don't marry, these people will marry. So he didn't want to interfere. But anyway, he said in such a way, everybody laughed, because they didn't expect such a liberal answer from Sri Ramakrishna. They perhaps thought that he would tell his mother, no, you should not. He's such a nice boy, such wonderful spiritual capacity. Why do you tie him in bondage? But he didn't. He perhaps had some kind of intuition. So he said, let them decide. It all depends on his destiny. I mean, it all depends on Mother's will. Then his mother told another problem, which is a very common problem. Every mother feels that the children should study and work hard and get good marks. So Narayan was no exception. So his mother says he doesn't work hard in his studies. So she said, please explain or ask him to study hard. Then I said to Narayan, you must study hard. Then she said again, please tell him more emphatically. And all laughed. So Narayan was there, and just because his mother said, Sri Ramakrishna, just like a parrot, repeated what she said. But she felt that here Sri Ramakrishna is not very serious. Because Sri Ramakrishna knew that this advice everybody in the world will give him. Study hard, study hard. Every child who is born, his parents, everybody around him, that is the one thing they will tell, whether the parents are good or bad. They just want the children to study hard and get good marks and maybe get a good job or settle down in life. So, if her saying, asking Narayan to study hard is not creating any impact on the child or on that boy, Sri Ramakrishna just formally, because his mother said, you study hard, then he just laughed. Everybody laughed. Then she said again, please tell him more emphatically. Now she knew that Sri Ramakrishna is not very serious about these matters because he himself did not study hard. His goal of life was different, and he, how can he tell something? It's like telling somebody to uh, do certain things when you yourself have chosen not to do that thing. So then he is telling Chunilal, well, why doesn't Gopal come, the Choto Gopal, the younger Gopal? So Chunilal said he has blood diarrhea. Now that was a very serious disease because of the pollution in the river or the water that people drank. Blood diarrhea was very common. It could be very fatal in those days. Sri Ramakrishna says, oh my God, does he take any medicine? So that the conversation ends there. Now Chunilal was there. Now, today, Sri Ramakrishna is supposed to visit the Star Theatre in Calcutta. Star Theatre, as all of you know, was started by Girish Chandra Ghosh, who was a great dramatist. And he was one of the wonderful disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, who was totally transformed. Nobody could believe that there would be so much transformation in Girish's life. Because he was like a vagabond, though he was very talented. He started the Star Theatre. He is also known as the father of Bengali drama. That so much was his fame, and his theatre was also packed. Audience used to come from long distances to see his dramas. And the Star Theatre was founded by him. So he used to use actors, especially women, and they would play the role of men. In those days, it was so difficult. So women of maybe most of the women who were not from good families, only they would act. And he could get actors only from them, but he was such a good director. He would train them. Himself was a good actor. So he was very good at training these different actors and make them immerse themselves in the character of the role that they were playing. And his dramas were exceptionally brilliant. So Chaitanya Leela, which he wrote about life of Chaitanya in drama, he has written many other dramas as well, but this Chaitanya Leela became famous, and the Vaishnavas used to come from all over the place, all over Bengal to listen, because they respected him so much that they thought a person who could write and create such a wonderful drama on Chaitanya must be a great devotee. But very often they came and found that even while he was writing the drama or receiving visitors, there would be a bottle, used to be drinking freely alcoholic drinks. So everybody was shocked. How a person who writes such a wonderful book or such a wonderful drama, how can he be a drunkard? So they would not believe. They tried to console themselves or comfort themselves by saying, okay, maybe he's using a wine bottle for keeping medicines. So they used to ask that how can a person who writes such a wonderful drama on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which has become so popular, how can he resort to such drinking and such bad habits? So they used to come and ask him, oh, perhaps you are taking medicines. That you are using these wine bottles or the bottles of alcohol, just empty bottles, you are using it for keeping medicine. That much faith they had in Chaitanya, but in Girish Ghosh. But Girish Ghosh was so straightforward, and he said, no, this is very much, or the contents are wine only, whatever is written on the bottle, that is what I am drinking. He was not a person who would hide what he did. He was so straightforward. And that made him open his heart to Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna accepted him, not only accepted him as his disciple, took upon all the karma of this wonderful disciple, and he became a saint. Of course, it took some time, but Sri Krishna's greatest miracle was Girish Chandra Ghosh. So now this Girish Chandra Ghosh has arranged a drama, Chaitanya Leela, the play of Chaitanya, and Sri Krishna has been invited. They have sent a special invitation, and Mahendra Mukherjee in his carriage will take Sri Krishna to see the play. So the devotees are now discussing where they should sit so that Sri Krishna gets a good view. There were very expensive tickets if you go to the gallery. Somebody suggested that a 1 rupee seat gives a good view. But Ram was so devoted to Sri Krishna, he didn't mind spending money. He said, why just 1 rupee ticket? We'll take him to the box. Perhaps the box was a special area in the theater from where you had a very, very good view, but it was very expensive. Maybe it was a private box. So Ram says, no, we will take him to the box. He will not sit with other people, not even the 1 rupee ticket. So Thakur laughs. Then he makes a wonderful remark. He says, courtesans act in this place. They play the role of Chaitanya Deva, Nita and others. I mean, Sri Krishna is now first introducing this topic. These women who are playing the wonderful character of Chaitanya, Nita and all, they are courtesans. They are simple people. But he didn't criticize them, but he said, I heard that they will be playing Chaitanya's role. What a wonderful thing. Then Sri Krishna tells the devotees who had assembled there, I shall look upon them as the all blissful mother. They may be courtesans, they may be looked down upon by people of society. But Sri Krishna said, don't worry, I'm going there to see the drama and I will respect them because I see the all blissful mother in all the women. So let them act as Chaitanya Deva. Seeing an imitation custard apple made of solai, dry plant, one has the feeling of a real custard apple. So in those days, toy custard apples were made of a dry plant and this imitation just looked like a custard apple. So he says it doesn't really matter who is acting. Even if they enact a drama on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whoever is the actor, even if it is an imitation, it will look like the real, because they are playing out a wonderful character from the spiritual history of mankind. So if the drama or the text or the script is so nice, then obviously it doesn't really matter whether it is real Chaitanya or imitation Chaitanya. The idea that is more important. So whatever Chaitanya lived and died for, if those messages are conveyed through the medium of theater, that's why Sri Krishna liked this. He said, why do you criticize the actors? After all, they are playing such a great role. And if you see the custard apple, the imitation custard apple, you are reminded of the custard apple. Don't go to try to find out it. Your idea is to get a pretty good imitation, even if a pretty good imitation is good enough, because it's the ideas that ultimately matter. What Chaitanya spoke, how they acted, and how beautifully they conveyed certain messages. You take those messages, don't bother, and learn to respect even those people who are playing that role. They may be courtesans, but they are playing the role of Chaitanya. So you have to respect them. So then Sri Krishna says, a devotee was walking, gives another example. He was walking on the road and saw a number of babul trees. The devotee was instantly absorbed in bhava or divine fervor. He remembered that the beautiful handle of the spade in the garden of Shamsundar, Krishna, is made of the same wood. You see how they make connections. A person who is always thinking of Krishna, his Ishta, everything about him is wonderful. That is why Sri Krishna used to say, he used to visit Kamarpukur later on when Sri Krishna was no more. And he used to say, in the Guru's village, whatever has come in touch with my Guru, that is Sri Krishna, has been, for me, it is worthy of respect. So he used to worship the place that Sri Krishna sat. If somebody said Sri Krishna used to come and sit here, he would respect that thing, and all the animals and plants of Kamar Pukur, Sri Ramakrishna thought that maybe they had some kind of touch of Sri Ramakrishna. So he also paid them tremendous respect. So everything about the Lord is worthy of respect. So that is why he is giving this example that by seeing a babul tree, the wood of which was used to make the handle in the spade of the garden of Sham Sundar. So that connection came to this devotee, and looking at this tree went into a divine mood, thinking of the Sri Krishna, who's in the temple of Sri Krishna or Sham Sundar, where a simple axe was made by the wood of this tree. So looking at the tree, thinking of Sri Krishna. So that connection happens if we love our Ishta or love our Guru so much that everything about him, everything, whatever he does, whatever is connected to him, we respect that. Not only during their lifetime, but even after the passing away, we respect those things. So he was indirectly saying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was such a wonderful person that even after hundreds of years, if somebody, whoever it is, acts the role of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then they are worthy of respect, because the imitation custard apple is as good as the real one. So that is the idea. So when they took me, then he is saying, when they took me to Fort Maidan, that is a very big monument built by the British, to see the balloon, I saw a European boy standing against a tree with his body bent at 3 places. Immediately I was inspired with Krishna and went into Samadhi. Now, he says that Sri Krishna, normally we call him Tribhanga. Tribhanga means he used to always stand in a very crooked way. He used to play his flute, inclining himself against a tree or something. And he always, Sri Krishna was well known because of this. So Tribhanga means he was bent in 3 places. He never stood straight. So that, inspired by Krishna, inspired by that idea of Krishna, when he saw a boy in this posture with the body bent at 3 places, Sri Ramakrishna's mind immediately soared. He was inspired with the life and teachings of Sri Krishna and his divine Leelas, that he went into Samadhi. So Sri Ramakrishna says, even if you see something resembling that which you love, that which you have given your whole heart to, when you see such things, even trivial things, it will remind you of the person who was associated with that. I'll give you a simple example. In Swami Vivekananda's life, we see an incident. All of you know that Swami Vivekananda used to smoke a pipe. In those days, the pipe was used. So when he was in the West, he used to smoke that pipe. And once, I think, when he was leaving America, all his disciples wanted something used by him. So he gave the pipe to one lady. I forgot the name of the lady. She was a very great devotee, Western woman. And long after he passed away, but she kept that pipe which was given by our Guru very, very carefully. And she used to always polish it and keep it on the table. One day she was suffering from a very, very bad headache. So she was finding it so unbearable. She tried all medicines, she could not cure herself. And she felt that it is now almost unbearable. So she was just looking at the pipe. So just casually she took the pipe, not with the intention of praying to Swamiji, but she just took the pipe. And perhaps she wished that if Swami Vivekananda, her Guru, were alive, he would have solved this problem. But anyway, she took that pipe and touched her head with that. And immediately she heard a voice from behind. This is a real incident narrated by this Western disciple. A voice very clearly told her, "Madam, is it very hard to bear this? Do you find it so hard?" So Swami Vivekananda's voice was heard by this lady. And she says immediately, within no time, the pain subsided and she was okay. So we know that these things happen. Anything, a simple thing used by Swamiji was uh, so reverentially kept by this lady. And finally, the presence of the person who may be no more, but his some of the things or some of the ideas that he has left behind, that is more important. So then he gives another example. So there were certain areas in Bengal where the one of the village was Meda village, where the clay was so nice that they used to make the khol, a drum used in kirtan. It is made of clay. They bake that clay. But all clay is not used. Some special clay which was normally from this Meda village. I don't know where it is, but that was the clay that was being used to make good quality drums. So Chaitanya Chaitanya was once passing by the Meda village, and he was told that they make whole drum with the clay from this village. That immediately his mind went into a very high plane, because seeing the mud, he thought of the kirtan, he thought of the khol or the instrument which was used as a drum in kirtan. And from kirtan, he thought about Krishna. So just a simple object as mud, because of its association with kirtan and association of kirtan with Krishna, immediately the idea or maybe the thought came to Sri Chaitanya Deva himself that this soil has been used for years and years together, and so many people have thought of Krishna and danced and gone into ecstasy. So that it inspired Chaitanya Deva himself to go into ecstasy by seeing some ordinary thing. So also another example Sri Ramakrishna is giving. He says, seeing a cloud or the neck of a peacock, Radha could not control herself. She would be overcome with the presence of Sri Krishna and lose all her outer consciousness. Now the neck of a peacock is bluish in color. The cloud, bluish gray, that was the color of Sri Krishna, they say. Sri Krishna was a bit dark, and his color resembled, it was slightly grayish blue. So the clouds also are grayish blue. So also is the neck of the peacock. So Radha, whenever she saw these objects, they were very trivial objects, the neck of a peacock or the cloud, but that would remind her of the color of Krishna, and Krishna would inspire her. The idea of Krishna would inspire her, and she could not control. She used to go into bhava or some deep spiritual emotion. She would be overcome with the presence of Sri Krishna and lose all outer consciousness. She was so sensitive. That shows how much Radha or these gopis loved Krishna. Anything that resembled Krishna, even the color of Krishna inspired them. Whenever they see that, they think of nothing else but Sri Krishna. It's just a color. They are seeing just a color, maybe a peacock's neck or the deep blue sky or the clouds in the sky, which are grayish blue. So even that suggestion was enough to give the suggestion that it is Sri Krishna that I am seeing. So everywhere they were so devoted to Sri Krishna and his personality and his life and his message, that they could, wherever they saw any slight resemblance with Krishna, and they would think it is Krishna himself. So Thakur is now silent for a while, and after some time he resumes the conversation. So he just goes into silence for some time, and then he resumes the conversation and says, Radha's Mahabhava and Prema, intense love for the gopis, was desireless. So that is one of the important things that one has to remember. If a person in bhakti, if he is having some kind of business attitude, if there is some desire behind loving God, that I will love God, I will worship Him because I want money or I want this, I want that, even the good things, not just gross things like money, just some name and fame or some higher things, higher intelligence and all, if we pray to God, then that prema doesn't come. The Mahabhava comes when the love that you have is for love's sake. There is no desire behind that. So a genuine devotee has no desire. So Sri Ramakrishna is talking of the difference between uh, Mahabhava and prema on one hand and bhakti on the other hand. Bhakti can be Vaidhi bhakti. It can be a bhakti where you are praying to the Lord so that He gives you certain things or certain qualities or certain objects which are desirable to you. We pray to God, most of the people pray to God for that purpose. Hardly very few like Radha and others who had Mahabhava, who had real prema, real intense love. But that intense love was always desireless. There was no desire, that Krishna was the object of their worship, and anything connected with Krishna was good enough for them. What it gave them, they were not selfish. They were just, it was one-sided attraction and divine love. There is no desire behind it. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna says a genuine devotee who has prema, and just like Radha's Mahabhava. Mahabhava means it's something like prema, the greatest devotion. So such devotion, because it is not tinted or tinged with any kind of selfishness, it is purely unselfish, desireless, then it can qualify to become prema or the Mahabhava. This disciple or a person a bhakta who has this, he prays for pure love of God. He doesn't ask for any powers or occult powers or any other power. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying, because in those days spirituality in most parts of the world is associated with some kind of occult power or some great quality which will make us uh, powerful enough to possess more and more things. So that is occult power. So we want to do certain things which we cannot do with our normal personality. So we turn to God, we worship God so that our personality can do some great things which we want to do in life. Some not great things, some very powerful things, or achieve powerful results with this powerless body or mind. We want our children to pass exams without making any effort. So everybody wants some kind of grace or vibhuti from the Lord, which enables us to get things easily without having worked hard for them. So these occult powers, these things come because of devotion, but Sri Ramakrishna was terribly against it. That's why he says a person, a real devotee, never asked for occult powers or any other power. So now he is telling the people in this connection that how his guru Totapuri had told him about the 8 powers that come to a spiritual disciple, to spiritual people, and how they have to be very conscious and see that they don't become obstacles in attaining the Lord. They are all obstacles. The 8 powers which are Sri Ramakrishna was describing. He says, Sri Ramakrishna said, now continues, he says, occult power bring great troubles. Totapuri once counseled me, saying, a man who has had occult powers was sitting on a seashore. This is a very famous incident. The sea had become stormy. Afraid that the storm would harm him, the man said, using all his powers, let the storm halt at once. So there was a storm in the sky. He was meditating. He had no business to use his powers, but he thought, let me just, to protect myself, maybe the storm will come and hit me. So let me use my powers and stop the storm. So he did it, and obviously he was having those occult powers. So the storm died. And so abruptly it stopped that a ship which was tossing here and there, perhaps it would have survived. But because this person forcibly stopped it, the wave suddenly stopped and the whole boat collapsed. The ship sank. and all the passengers that were occupying that ship, they sank with it. Thus, Sri Ramakrishna says, Totapuri told Sri Ramakrishna, now you see, all the people who died is because this person used his spiritual powers. He didn't use it to drown these people, but as a consequence of using the powers that we get by sadhana, even if you get powers, it is dangerous because the moment we use them, we have to bear all the consequences. So this incident is being told to Sri Ramakrishna, was told by to Sri Ramakrishna by Totapuri. So Sri Ramakrishna is quoting what Totapuri told him, and he says, all the passengers occupying that ship died, and thus that person who used his occult power apparently to save himself actually did a lot of harm to himself. The sin resulted not only in losing his occult powers, but because of the sins of killing so many people, he went to hell. So these are the consequences. Sri Ramakrishna is giving this example, a very graphic example, to show that one who misuses his powers and tries to dominate over others by misusing the spiritual practices or the power gained through spiritual practices. If one uses one of these 8, there are other occult powers which Sri Ramakrishna explains in some other part, in some other volume. He is trying to tell what all occult powers are there. He has named them. But here, he is just explaining that whatever be the nature of your occult power, which you get as a result of lot of sadhana, it's not so easy to get it. But after working so hard, if one uses it for a trivial purpose, then it's his or her life is wasted. So he gives another example. You see, Sri Ramakrishna, whenever he tried to impress upon people a certain idea, a certain thought, he was very keen to follow it up with a story or a parable, so that the idea becomes very clear and people won't forget what he said. Because people love to hear stories. Buddha taught through parables. Jesus Christ taught through parables. They all taught through parables because they knew how to make difficult philosophical truths simple so that even normal, ordinary people can understand it. So, a sadhu, Sri Ramakrishna is giving another example now. He possessed many occult powers. So, this made him very proud because of his capacity to perform these powers. He had practiced sadhana for a long time, but it made him very proud. But this man was basically a good fellow and had lot of tapasya to his credit. Bhagwan one day came to him disguised as a sadhu. God himself came and said, Maharaj, I hear that you have acquired many occult powers. The sadhu asked him very cordially to sit down. Now, God came to correct this person. And because he knew he was basically a good person, but he has now become very egotistic because of the powers that he has got. He will use it and come to grief later on. So I have to warn him. So God himself came. Then he came in the guise of a Brahmin or a sadhu. So he did not know that it was the Lord himself who has come to test him. So the elephant was passing. He wanted to show. The second sadhu said, well, Maharaj, can you kill this elephant by a mere wish? So the first sadhu, the second sadhu is God himself, but the first sadhu said, yes, it's very easy, it's possible. So he took a little dust, muttered a few mantras, and threw it on the body of the elephant. And within a few minutes, because of the power he had gained by so much of penance, this elephant died. Now, the second sadhu, who was of course the Lord himself in disguise, said, Are, what have you done? You have killed that elephant. So the first sadhu said, no, I have the powers to revive that elephant again. It's not just I have the power to kill. I have the power to kill, I have the power, see my power. So he again uttered some mantras and brought back the elephant to life. So it started walking. Then the other sadhu told him, oh, what a powerful sadhu you are. But I ask you a simple question. Now the Lord is trying to explain to this second sadhu. Said, what have you gained by killing the elephant and then bringing it back to life? The status quo has been maintained. The elephant was alive a few minutes ago. You killed him with your mantras and then you revived him with your mantras. So the situation remains the same. So what have you gained? Did you do tapasya? Did you do this penance for for so many years and got this power to do such a silly thing like this? What have you gained? So what have you gained by killing the elephant and then bringing it back to life? What spiritual progress were you able to achieve by it? Has it helped you to realize God? Saying so, the sadhu then disappeared. Now, if the other sadhu, if he has wisdom, he will understand that even though he doesn't know that God himself had come as a holy man, if he is wise enough, if he is really a good person, he would understand from this example the futility of using the powers for several worldly purposes. Then Sri Ramakrishna says something very important and will conclude. He says religion is such a delicate matter. It's a very, very delicate matter. Even the smallest trace of desire can stop you from attaining the Lord. And he gives such a wonderful example. He says, a thread does not pass through the eye of a needle if its end has any fiber sticking out. See, he was so observant. When he saw somebody trying to force a thread in the eye of the needle, and because there were fibers sticking out, they could not do it. Sri Ramakrishna learned such a beautiful lesson. He connected it with sadhana and said, even if you have one thread, a thread of desire left, then you can't achieve the goal. The thread will not pass through the eye of the needle. Even if one, it doesn't have to be many strands. Just one strand will, then you have to again sharpen it, see that there are no fibers sticking out. Even if one fiber, leave alone 10 or 15 fibers are there, it will definitely not go. But even if one fiber sticks out and you don't take care of it, you can not pass a thread through the eye of the needle. That means if you have the slightest desire, then you can enter the kingdom of God. To enter the kingdom of God, you have to make yourself pure. Purity means get rid of all the gross desires, except the desire to be more, to get liberation. According to Sri Krishna and according to Sri Ramakrishna also, the desire for liberation is not categorized as a desire, because that is a desire to go beyond desires. So it cannot be called a desire. It's a noble resolution that we do. So anyway, we will conclude now, and if there is some question, you can ask. We'll conclude today. And yeah, there's a question. Is it correct to see Sri Ramakrishna as all-inclusive and universal, Ishta, transcending sectarian division? Obviously, you can. That is the greatness of Sri Ramakrishna. That is why all the temples or all the monuments or the prayer halls that we build in the Ramakrishna mission, whether it is in India, the prayer hall or the temple is known as a universal prayer hall. So people belonging to any religion, any community, any sect, anywhere in the world, irrespective of their caste, creed, religion, ethnicity, there is absolutely no restriction. He is a universal Ishta because he is one whom everybody liked. If you see the gospel, the Brahmos came to him. They thought he is their own. The Vaishnavas came to him. He thought he is their own. So everybody who came to Sri Ramakrishna, no matter which sect they belong to, they looked upon him as a universal person, a universal idea. Even Swami Vivekananda said, I cannot describe Sri Ramakrishna because he was such a universal spirit, which was so rare in those days. Everybody had sectarian or limited ideas. But Sri Ramakrishna was, according to Swami Vivekananda, as deep as the ocean and as broad as the sky. So when you are very broad, when you are very liberal, you normally think that you don't make progress. Everybody believes that if you are fanatical, if you are one pointed, and if you go on hammering, we go deep into one particular thing and emphasize that our religion, our sect is the only thing, and we just go on uh, forcing people to accept that point of view. That's the easiest way to expand. That is what people think. So they think going deep into one idea and giving up all other ideas as superstition, we can reach the bottom of the sea. I mean, we can reach great depths. That is one idea. So one has to be as deep as the ocean, but at the same time, we has to be as broad as the sky. So these two apparently opposite qualities were combined in Sri Ramakrishna. He said he was a universal person in the sense he was whatever he believed. So he said, if you believe in something and hold on to that thought, but at the same time accept others also as true, but you don't leave your thought. So if one, that is why Swamiji says, Sri Ramakrishna came to make a Hindu a better Hindu, a Christian a better Christian. He did not have any quarrel with any sect in the world. He said, just deeply follow your particular Ishta or your particular way of worship, go deep, but at the same time, be liberal enough to say that all other paths are equally true. That's the only requirement that makes him universal, but at the same time, very deep. Because many universal people are very superficially universal. They don't have faith in anything. But they say, oh, everything is true, everything is fine. They're not bothered about any particular idea or any particular spiritual idea. So they may not be as deep as the ocean, but they may be as broad as the sky, but that will not do. One has to be deep in his own faith, at the same accept, as broad as the sky means, accept all other religions and all other faiths as valid paths to reach the same goal. So is there one more question? I'll just see. Yes. So now one more question is asking, I am still confused about one thing. Isn't the pursuit for liberation a desire itself? The mechanism, I mean, despite the fact that it is directed to the entrance to the kingdom of God. Yes, it is a desire, but it is not a desire that will give rise to other desires. All other desires, they cause a chain reaction and bind us more and more. But the desire to be free from bondage cannot be called as a desire, because it ultimately makes you desireless. Only when you become desireless, you reach the infinite God. The more desires you have, the more finite you become, the more you get absorbed or get bound to the world. So to desire to get rid of bondage, which is the exact opposite, that is not a danger. It is a desire, no doubt. If you think it's a desire, but it's a desire to kill all other desires. Like a big fire, when it is approaching, very often you find in the forest, when forest fires are there, you cause another fire, and that both those fires kill them, interact with each other and destroy each other. So similarly, the desire to get rid of desire, that is desire for moksha, is a desire that, I mean, you can say it consumes that smaller desires, and it makes you totally desireless. So all the smaller desires which take you towards the gross world, which bind you to the world, are removed from your mind. So I'll take leave now. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. So I just had to make one announcement that we will be celebrating Durga Puja, Ashtami Puja on Monday from 3. I'll be sending out the notices, but we will be having Chandi recitation by Dattatreya Velankar from 28th onwards, 28th of this month till Vijayadashmi. Every day there will be something, especially in the evening and also in the morning. So that will go on, but there won't be any ritual as such. It will just be devotional singing, because that is the essence of uh, Durga Puja. It's not what events or what food that you offer and all those things. They are okay. They are part of the practice of these pujas. There's nothing wrong in that. But if we focus on the ideas, what is this Navratri? What is the it's a Shakti Parva. I mean, you can say Navratri is dedicated to the Divine Mother. The what does Divine Mother do? I mean, what is her role in our life? So all those things we will be performing. Dattatreya Velankar is coming all the way from India on his way to Germany, and we'll be having this these programs. I'll send the detailed programs on WhatsApp. But the Ashtami Puja will be from 3 o'clock to 7:30 on Monday. That is 3rd October. That will be our main puja. So all are welcome. So I'll conclude now. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.